Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on Times flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello and welcome. We've all seen the headlines. Billionaires' wealth skyrockets by 114% amid global poverty surge, while nearly 5 billion people slip further into poverty as they grapple with the challenges of inflation, war, and the climate crisis. According to Oxfam's latest inequality report highlighting the alarming rate of wealth accumulation among the ultra-rich and its consequences, it's taken just 3 years for the net worth of the 5 wealthiest people on Earth to increase by 114% to a colossal $869 billion. To quote Nabil Ahmed, Director of Economic and Racial Justice for Oxfam America, to overcome an age of immense private power, we need a new era of public action. But in a world where all the power resides in the hands of so few, how do we create that? With me today is wisdom seeker, social scientist, and sustainability practitioner Thomas Legrand, whose internationally acclaimed book, Politics of Being, Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm, proposes a new paradigm based on being instead of having. Thomas Legrand, welcome.
Thank you, Sandie. Pleasure to be with you.
So you have a Ph.D. in economics. You've studied international development, political science and management. You've held research roles in international development and political science and serve as a sustainability resource for United Nations agencies, private companies, NGOs. And alongside that, you've also had a deeply spiritual life journey, embracing the wisdom of several traditions and practices. So tell us a little bit about your life journey and your motivation to write this book.
Thank you, Sandie. So for me, I think I often say an important starting point is my student exchange in Mexico when I was 22, coming from France. I went to stay 6 months in Mexico and met some shamans and had some deep experience of reconnecting with Mother Earth, which really changed my life. For the first time, I was able to see clearly what is a spiritual path and recognize immediately that this is what I had looked for without really knowing, without really able to put a name on it. And when I realized that, I completely reprioritized my life and started and wanted to serve the earth. Which led me a couple of years later to do a PhD in ecological economics on forest conservation, because that deep reconnection was also very much reconnection to the forest, as I feel my soul is deeply linked to the forest. And that was in Mexico at that time, 2002, 2003. I heard for the first time, this Mayan prophecy of a change of consciousness. And as a social scientist, to me, it was clear that we need a big social change, and that necessarily goes together with some kind of inner change. And I started to work on that path, travel the world, and become more closer to some spiritual teachings like the ones of Sri Aurobindo, talking about the spiritual evolution of humanity, etc. And for me, this lens became very clearly the right lens to interpret, what's going on in the world right now. Let's say of this kind of transition, we could say from teenagehood to adulthood, as some traditions has put it. And but it was to me strange that it's not at all, it was not at all present in the media or in the political or sustainability conversation. And as I was working on as an environmentalist, basically, I realized that there is very little we can achieve within that development paradigm focused on economic growth. And I started to research what would be a different vision of development, looking at what the spiritual religious traditions had to say about that. And I found this sentence in the Earth Charter. We say when basic needs have been met, human development is primarily about being more rather than having more. And I've been part of political processes in different countries to develop a vision of green development, etc. And even in these more strategic discussion, I found out there's never really the space to discuss about the root causes and the mindset, the culture, which I think that needs to evolve at the moment. So that's why I decided to spend 10 years working on this book, which was finally launched in, we're about to celebrate in 3 days, 2 years ago in English.
So, politics of being, tell me what that concept means and why you think we need it right now.
Sure. So politics of being is really about organizing societies in a way that promotes being rather than having. At the moment, it's not even our economic system, even our education system or health systems or governance systems, bear witness of this economic framing of our societies. So the point is, what if we could organize all different parts of societies in a way that help bring out the best in humans, as a famous scientist says, and Ostrom. And what I mean by being, I very simply defining that. To me, that's the same, like it's a real human development and it's a spiritual development. And simply said, it's about becoming who we are, the best version of ourselves. And these are two different dimensions that complement each other somehow. One is more subjective, becoming who we are, and the other ones relates to the cultivation of virtues and quality that any healthy society should emphasize, as philosophers like Aristotle or Confucius has all said. But the surprise is that at the moment, on the contrary, all societies is organized to rather cultivate all that is problematic in human nature, or greed, or selfishness, or competitive nature, etc. So we have, both. We have all the seeds in us, both good potential for good qualities, but also these bad qualities, and it all depends about what gets nourished in our societies, in our social interactions. And so a lot of our problem, I think, is because we have nourished for the last centuries, let's say, especially in the West, through this economic paradigm, selfishness, greed, competition, etc. So we really need to become aware of that and rather feed the other parts of our human nature, which I believe is closer to our true nature, spiritual nature.
So, this is a massive, massive undertaking. I mean, I think we know of only one country that might be remotely interested in that, and isn't that the Kingdom of Bhutan that measures its GDP in happiness rather than something else? I mean, how challenging is it going to be to get this out there and get people actually to take it up?
Yeah, no, that's very challenging, but that's why we are called to spiritually evolve. I think, I think we won't be able to establish an harmonious, sustainable presence on Earth until we really fundamentally change or where reconsider why we are here on Earth, both at the individual level. A lot of us are going through this, we're prioritizing our lives, but we need to do the same at the collective level. And you mentioned Bhutan. Yes, I mean a lot of my work has been to identify the different entry points. So there are indeed in our societies there are a lot of threads that are not being named as part of this agenda that we could call even spiritual, no? But by unmasking, behind what kind of wording, language, concepts, etc., where is this kind of spiritual understanding getting through our societies, we can nurture them and bring them together in particular to advance this agenda. So, Bhutan talks about gross national happiness, but there is a lot of, there is now at least half a dozen countries that have committed to a well-being economy. We have countries in South America that have established the rights of nature and really based on a similar worldviews and the Bhutanese vision. We have, in the UN system, there have been works on a culture of peace. So in the UK, there are a very interesting initiative called the Mindfulness Initiative, looking at the potential of mindfulness in public policies, and that have been backed by an all-party group. So it's really about trying to identify where are the seeds of this new development paradigm, so that we can water them and grow them and put them together in a coherent vision. Because often people are not able to connect them together for a more overarching vision for societies.
Well, as a Brit, I have to tell you that there's a lot of talk about mindfulness in the general media, and people are very interested in it. But if the government are paying any attention to this, we certainly do not see any trace of that at all. If anything, you would think that they are being most unmindful about some of the things that are happening. But that's by the by. You use the words science, wisdom and science for a new development paradigm. That's an interesting pairing, wisdom and science. Are we talking about ancient wisdom, indigenous wisdom, or are we talking about the wisdom of the science that we know, more recent science, which is not the same thing?
Yeah, these are two different fields of knowledge, and unfortunately that have been disconnected. And I think it's really now the time to reconnect. I mean, especially in the Western world, where with modernity we have thrown out religion, especially from the public space and conversation, and somehow we have thrown out the baby with the water's bath, right, as we said. Which is spirituality. So, and now a lot of what I've done is to show how much the main spiritual insights of many wisdom traditions are now more consistent with new scientific research. And one cannot. It's very mutilating to approach life only with scientific knowledge. Scientific knowledge has nothing to do about how we should lead our lives. It can answer how to achieve certain objectives, but it can't define, what are we here for? What are the values we should put at the center of our societies? So that's why I think wisdom is first to define the direction, and then science can tell us, how we can foster this kind of collective evolution we want and we definitely need. So it's really about how to really understand, what is the role of wisdom, what can it serve for, and what is the role of science. If we don't question basically the ends, we have little discussions in our society about the ends, and which makes our current development paradigm, the focus on economic growth, really be unquestioned. But it's not true that because we don't discuss the end, there is not some underlying values, narratives, and ideologies um, that are directing us. So we really need to open that discussions on, what are we here for? What do we want? What is the kind of the good lives as we understand, and not assume that it's just normal to look for more production and consumption as a measure of progress.
Mm. If this idea were taken up widely, how many years do you think it would take for us to really see some change, some positive changes? Because you also say that we're going to have to do a lot of healing of intergenerational traumas.
Mhm.
There's a lot of work there before we even start.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say if we're starting to have this conversation, the mindset cultural change can go very quick if we are starting, I mean, I would say even if we are serious about committing to this agenda, it will be it will be the most important step to be done, right? Because our consciousness is constantly interacting with our actions. So if we engage in this path, that would create, and even in this conversation, it could create a drastic change, because then you start to questioning, all our solutions from a different point of view, and the consciousness can be raised relatively quickly. Otherwise, I would say, if you take a cultural change perspective, usually we would say that this is a generational change. So it took, one generation to really change the paradigm in which we are living. And if we start, you start with a child, you are educating it, you are, you're creating a healthy family context for its development. You are educating it in a different way. And then, you'll start to make this adult now work in a different kind of organizations, and it will create a completely different outcomes for society.
Mm.
So
So, I mean, how do you go about convincing others? I mean, not just, governmental agencies and those in authority to start taking this seriously, particularly in an era where we're seeing a reversion to authoritarianism, which is quite pervasive. How are you going to convince people who have their eyes set on a completely different
mhm,
objective
mhm.
to consider this? How do we do that?
Yeah, well, first showing the evidence, the data. I mean, when I've been conducting all this research, I was struck at the fact that so much of the solutions are in this being agenda, even specific solutions to specific problems in many sectors. And I understood the reason why is that because we have gone so far in a different direction, we are so disbalanced that at the moment, all of the solutions now are sitting on the other side, let's say. So first, the data, the evidence, there's a lot of research about that we can rely on. And, it brought me even to ask, why are we so blind to this data? Because there's a lot of potential for society in that. If you look at, some data that shows even the economic returns of investing in early childhood well-being or in investing in mental health, etc., it's kind of surprising that, or trauma healing, it's kind of surprising that we don't attend that as societies. And why is that? I think the answer is just that we're just not comfortable in looking inside. No, so we try to keep all that away from us. So at the end, and scientists now know very well that the data, the evidence are not enough. It's about how do we make people open to this new information, to this new worldview. It's very challenging for many people to adopt a different approach. So I think that has to be also experienced in person. And as part of my work with a UN initiative called the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, That's what we are about, creating the experience in which people will be able to experience a kind of change that kind of human transformation that we need so that our systems can change. And it's you can show some evidence, but it's difficult for people to understand if they have not experienced that personally. So the more we can create spaces for deeper discussions, for deep listening, for sharing deep insights. We seldom have the space for this kind of conversation. We need to create that kind of spaces for people to evolve.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all, but given the report that I spoke about in my introduction, when you've got 5 people who own most of the world, and you've got many of those that are involved in media that is also not interested in putting out the kind of story that you're telling, and people who are suffering because of all of this, then how do you get the ordinary people's attention? Most people are so, they're so tired, and they've lost faith in politics and government and huge self-serving corporations to participate. How do you do that with the public?
Well, I think the crises are leading us in that direction of deeper introspection and of deeper analysis of the root causes of the poly crisis, which is a meta crisis of our civilizational software. And I think the point is like we'll suffer as much as it takes for us to get to that kind of questions and insights. So, all the disbalances that we see, economic, social, environmental, is just, what we need, unfortunately, to really be able to start asking the good question. And I see some quick progress on that trend, but it's a kind of a race also, because of course we are heading towards collapse somehow. But in this process, people are opening up to to see things differently and to be able to challenge long held truths, and get to the bottom of our crisis, which is human, cultural, spiritual. And we know from systems thinking that the biggest, most powerful levels of change is at the level of mindsets, of mental models, of
Yeah,
being, we could say.
yeah. So on a positive note, you can lure people by telling them what a wisdom-based or spiritual approach to politics looks like, because then we've got a picture to aim for. So tell us, what would it look like?
So I have developed a concrete, actionable policy agenda in many sectors, as I said, and it's about defining what are the leverage points, what are the priorities to support the cultivation of good and authentic human beings, let's say. So I think it starts definitely at a young age. I was talking about early childhood well-being. We know secured attachment is the basis for human flourishing, but also for capacity to contribute positively to society. So that's why it makes sense also from a social level to invest in early childhood well-being. Education, right now we are, let's say, the old paradigm is to fill brain with knowledge, and now it doesn't really make sense for because of the evolution of our world. So we should have an education for being, trying to respond to the specific calling of, accompany the specific calling of each children, help them develop their character, their values, and find the skills they need to accomplish their, life's calling. How do we organize at work, in a way that is more decentralized, with more rich work, and invest more in human development as part of this new kind of decentralized organization. The way we relate to work, there have been some discussion about some kind of basic income that could free people to go more towards their calling. The way we look at nature, I think nature's rights is very much part of this politics of being framework, and which is for all beings, not only human beings. And we know that different countries have already recognized that kind of nature's rights. The way we look at health, so not as only a body, but a real human being with emotions, with his psychology and his soul. So integrative health, taking all the dimensions of health into account and all the determinants of health. And for example, an important determinant of public health, maybe the most powerful one, is inequalities. You were pointing, at the beginning. So we have to also get to that awareness how economic inequalities are detrimental to societies and to basically all of us, as some people have showed. The way we look at food, basically there's a relationship between mental health and our diets. So we could really improve, we could really have a diet that works better for us and for the planet. The way we cultivate also, we grow our food in harmony with nature through agroecological principles rather than against nature. The way we approach justice, from the restorative justice paradigm, which cultivates human qualities rather than the retributive justice, this which rather try to punish and leveraging, or not really the best in humans, I would say. The way we approach our political systems, which are at the moment not at all cultivating, civic virtues. Can we rather foster space for deeper citizens' engagement in a way that is respectful and allows for the deeper discussions that we need to solve our problems? The way we approach our economic systems, can we make sure make a focus of rather allowing everyone to fulfill their own basic material needs, and in a way that is compatible with the planetary boundaries, rather than follow the engine of economic growth that dictates how we should approach production. So there's a lot
Thomas,
of...
I'm going to have to just hold you there. I mean, this is a really interesting point, and I do want to come back to it, but we have to take a break right now. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest today is wisdom keeper, social scientist, sustainability practitioner, Thomas Legrand, and we're talking about his internationally acclaimed book, Politics of Being, Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm. We'll be back with more from Thomas after the break.
Om Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of Om Times flagship radio show, What Is Going On? And as an author, editor and 13 times book judge who's read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors, I'm constantly asked what's really worth reading and what's not. So I created the No BS Spiritual Book Club to help you save time and money by picking the brains of discerning names who've walked this path before you. There's no catch, no fees and no BS. Just an ever-growing library of 10 best spiritual book lists from some of your favourite authors and teachers, plus free book excerpts, audios and video interviews with people like Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., David G., Lee Harris, Mark Nepo and more. From well-known classics to hidden gems you've never heard of, it's the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to enlighten your journey of self-discovery. So why not join the club? Get inspired and save money at the nobsspiritualbookclub.com.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Thomas Legrand, just before the break, you were talking about the actionable policy agendas and the 9 sectors you covered. You were speaking about economy and making sure that everybody has enough to live on, Universal credit is something that has been touted and tested, etc. But we're also hearing a lot of conspiracy theory around that, suggesting to people that they shouldn't even accept it if it's offered to them because it is a way for governments to control them even more then. What's your outlook there, and how do you actually, disabuse people of some of the theories that are going around that are captivating people's mindsets and making them look in the opposite direction?
Yeah, good question. I think, and that's why we need this kind of human evolution. How to explain that very simply. We have a lot of progress, economic, technological, in the past that have completely transformed our society, our ways of living, and have brought a world that is much more complex. But we have not invested the same amount of efforts in growing our consciousness or wisdom to deal with that complexity. And I think that complexity has, has overcome, let's say, our capacity to make sense of the world. And that's why a lot of people are now relying on conspiracy theories. They also, I think, another reason is that they are trying to understand, why is it going so bad for many of us, while there is really no reason about it. No, so.
And while it's going so well for just a few.
Exactly. And why are we letting that happen? No, so I tend to favor, more systemic explanation that, there's a system that has its own logic and bringing these kind of issues we are dealing right now. But I think what we can do about that is also, this system is coming with its own narrative, and if we characterize these systems as I do, by one that has focused on, economic growth, wealth accumulation, these people are power on us because we are buying their own narratives. We think the life of wealthy people is kind of the good lives we would like to have and be like them. But if we look at, there's a lot of work that shows that it's definitely not the pathway for a fulfilling and happy life. No. So there's a miss on that, on conception that would drive happiness and well-being. If we are able to recognize that, then all the system and these people have less power on us, basically. And or a lot of them are tech billionaires. Yeah, tech can be very useful, but it doesn't do much for our happiness, really. So if we start looking at the world in a different way, then new opportunities at the collective level will start to appear.
So where does the change begin? I mean, you've talked about, a generational change. You've talked about the way we bring up our children, the way we raise them, the way we educate them. But you're looking at several different systems there, all of which are going to need to be, transformed at the same time. For that, otherwise it's going to take several generations to come about. I mean, does it start with the individual, or does it start with the people in power? Or is it something that we've got to address both at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think we can separate consciousness and decision making, for example. No, the inner and the outer, I think they go together. And what's important to me is how we are able, and that's what I'm working on, is how we are able to bring the two together. Let's say, can we build spaces where maybe we'll start with meditation, a deep connection to ourselves, or maybe to nature or to each other, and then start the deeper discussions we need with having built a space that allow this deeper discussion, right? And then we can go into discussing education, economy, etc., but within that kind of space. So to answer your question, yes, young people, education, etc. But also, I think it's for all of us now to we can't wait also for the newborn to become the leaders of tomorrow. I think we are all need to transform very fast, and we can help each other in doing so. And by every one of us embodying our own essence and integrity in everything we do, we really can radiate a different way of being, a different way of interacting, and that can create quick changes.
So are you, I know your book has been internationally acclaimed. You've got two fabulous not reviews, testimonials that I'll read out in a moment. But are you reaching out to other groups and initiatives? I mean, I'm thinking specifically of something like Irving Laszlo's Upshift movement. There's a lot going on there, and it strikes me that you should be connected with groups like that who can be growing, and they are offering people new ways of showing them new ways of living and being.
Definitely. I've contributed to the Upshift book, and I'm part of this movement, part also of the Evolutionary Leaders Network. And yeah, it seemed that part of my work is to connect with all these different groups. A lot of them I've been able to identify them through my research, and now it's about I think what I wanted to offer with Politics of Being was a common framework, because I think we need that, which is simple enough and integrative enough, holistic, so that everyone feel represented in that new framework. But I think that's what we need to be able to come together as a much stronger movement. So yes, I'm connecting with a lot of these initiatives.
Good, good. Are you talking to students at universities and the young people who are looking for something that they can really engage with to bring about change?
Yes, also definitely, yeah, have a collaboration. I mean, one of the book also I've been part recently was on applied spirituality for sustainable development policy, and they are trying to frame the field in the academia for this kind of teachings. And yeah, I've been working with different universities on teaching.
Well, I love what Federico Mayer, former Director General of UNESCO, said about your book. He said it lucidly offers the new directions that are urgent to overcome the globalization of ignorance and indifference and build the future that the next generations deserve. I mean, this is something that I would think every parent, in their right mind would absolutely agree with, because we all care about our children and our grandchildren and what we are leaving them with. The other one I really liked was, and I think this is really important, was Jyoti Ma, grandmother, vision keeper at Centre for Sacred Studies and founder of The Fountain. And she said that in this book, the eagle and the condor are flying together. It's a call to the world family to unify themselves, to sit down at the sacred fire once again and deeply listen. The ancestors have their hands on it. There's truly something sacred in motion. If anyone is listening who is inspired by the conversation we've had and the ideas that you've put forth, if they are, asking, what can I do? Where can I go? Who do I talk to? How can I be part of this? What would you advise?
I would advise to read the book, to connect with the materials that are available online, and to start spreading this view, and maybe hold some reading circles, so that they can discuss together with their own community, with their own circle, these ideas, and really, to me, it's part of one's own journey. I think we are all here for a reason. Every one of us has a part to play in this overarching plan for humanity at the moment. And so it's a very organic process at the end. And when you really embody your reason of being here on earth, you will find the way you can contribute and energy of the times, really moving that message ahead. I feel, it's not it's really, I'm even surprised to say, I was surprised. I was saying to my wife when I wrote this book, I was always telling her when I get a new insight, why this book has not yet been written, and yeah, I'm surprised about, really feeling that there is just something that needs to be manifested at this moment. And that's really, I don't think um, we will be safe until we establish a completely different kind of society that is focused on being and human and spiritual development, basically.
Yeah. You live with your wife and your two daughters near Plum Village, the monastery of Thich Nhat Hanh, in the southwest of France. In the 10 years that you were doing your research and thinking about this and working on this book, did you discuss any of this with Thich Nhat Hanh? Did he contribute in any way to the development of your vision?
Of course, he contributed. I mean, this book has been very much nourished by all the meditation I have had in Plum Village, all the teachings I've received, which were really allowing me to digest a lot of my ideas and try to get to where Thich Nhat Hanh is incredible, is to be able to bring it to its simplest form, to its essence. So that has been really part of the process of developing these ideas and writing this book. I feel a sense of support from Thich Nhat Hanh, even if it has not been directly speaking with him. He left his body. We will be celebrating that on Sunday. He left his body the day this book was launched. So to me, that was really meaningful. If you look at the book launching, which is on my YouTube channel, we are really receiving the news. I mean, the day we were launching the book. So that was to me, and I feel there have been some signs showing me support that.
Yeah.
And one of the best endorsement that I've received is just very simple. A university professor told me, Thich Nhat Hanh would be proud of you. So that was very touching for me.
Yeah. So you consider this work your life mission, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
So what does that mean to you? You're just not going to stop pushing forward
Yeah, I mean,
your vision, your ideas. You're going to write more books. What more can you do?
well, I'm open because my mission is something that is beyond myself somehow. No, so I'm listening to what's wants to be, and but yes, as I was writing this book, I think it's part. People tell me they can feel the love I've put in that writing because I know I was establishing the basis of the work I would do all my life. So if it took a few hours more just to refine a paragraph or something, I would go into that couple of hours of research, etc., because I know that was, and I could feel already it was a sacred endeavor, and yeah, I'm there's a in some way I feel like I have a lot of things that are very clear in the direction. At the same time, I resist the idea of really knowing what's going to happen. So
So you offered, when we were communicating before this interview, you offered to give our viewers a short meditation, take them through a short meditation in which they can really see, connect with the vision. How short is that meditation? We probably have about 7 minutes.
okay, we can do that.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so I invite everyone to take a comfortable position, well seated, with the feet on the ground, getting back to your body sensation, getting in connection with yourself, maybe noticing, how rarely we do that, no? How we have been the whole day, maybe slightly disconnected from what's inside, not very aware of our feelings or what's going on inside of us. And really embracing all that with gratitude, with love for ourselves, and really finding in ourselves, recognizing that the earth is in ourselves through the air we breathe, through the food we eat, that our human relatives also are in ourselves, their joy, their suffering, and really feeling connection to something beyond us as we are. Keep aware of our breathing. in and out. And sitting with this question, who am I? What I'm here for? From a place of love and acceptance to ourselves. If we are to do this, engage in this sacred work, it's from a place of freedom and love. It is about hearing the calling in our hearts. And we know that calling. We may just be maybe just a bit scared sometimes to embody it, to connect to it, to trust in it. But as every step we make on this path makes this calling clearer. How do I want to contribute? What is bringing me joy and fulfillment? What is the meaning of my life, this moment of history? Can I truly live my life? Stay with the breathing. Connection to our hearts. And just listen. We can stay in silence for a moment. And we can notice how does that feel to hear that calling and respond to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. That was beautiful. One last very quick question.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a number of initiatives that you are engaged with. What would have to happen? What would you need to see to know that this was, really moving forward? It had reached a tipping point and it was on its way. What would you
Mhm.
need to see happen?
I think to me the starting point is acknowledging the suffering and really be able to open to it and to listen to it. First within ourselves and just really recognize the brokenness of ourselves and of our systems, and if we're able to be honest about it, then the solutions will be able to come quickly, I believe. I think, that's a starting point of spiritual path. Now, as Buddhism makes it clear, but before practicing Buddhism, I think that's what I've experienced now as a young person, really aware of my own suffering, but being surrounded by people who are not really recognizing and feeling awkward about it. So if we collectively be able to recognize that, I think we'll have a completely different discussions.
Thomas Legrand, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandie.
Politics of Being, Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm by Thomas Legrand is published by Ocean of Wisdom Press. For more information on Thomas and to purchase the book, visit politicsofbeing.com. Before we close, if you prefer the flexibility of listening to viewing, you can download an audio version of this show at the Om Times website and on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google, and all of the major podcast platforms. That's it for this week. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back with another edition of What is Going On at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you to Thomas Legrand.
Thank you, Sandie.